I had to stand up for this video because it's got me feeling some type of way.
Sometimes you gotta close the door to open a window.
Becoming a mangaka is arguably within the top 10 hardest creative jobs that you could possibly have. You spend years trying to be seen, picked up by a big magazine, presumably Shonen Jump, for example. When you finally get picked up, not only are you going to be working hour after hour, day after day to provide a story that is ongoing weekly, but you're also drawing that story too. And to add on to all of this, you're sort of in a constant competition with other series, other mangaka, your peers, sales, social media, feedback, the quality of the story, the quality of the art. They all play this massive part, whether you make it as a mangaka or not. And even when you do make it, you're in the hamster wheel for however long that story takes for you personally to complete, whether it's 20 years, 6 years. Hell, some of these mangaka literally give their lives in pursuit of this goal, so I can't understate it or underestimate it when I say my respect for these mangaka is in no short order absolutely immense. So when mangaka like Akami, the creator of Jujutsu Kaisen, come about with a genuinely incredible story, characters, artwork, and overall a story that just blows up, not only in popularity but in sales, at one point outselling One Piece, which in and of itself is just a fantastic achievement in and of itself. One Piece is a Goliath of a series to surpass. It also become one of those popular anime approved by the Guinness Book of Records there, which is actually insane in and of itself. You have to admire that kind of talent, that kind of hard work, those achievements. They kind of speak for themselves objectively, whether you like the story or not, and they are a testament to just how good of a storyteller and mangaka Akami truly is. So when Jujutsu Kaisen ended, it caused a lot of division. It caused a lot of people to dislike the ending. A lot of people enjoyed it for what it was. I was one of those. I really did enjoy the ending, but there was a whole bunch of stuff to just take in. There was a lot with that ending, but the bottom line is Akami, he created a story that he was satisfied. The years of his life spent crafting this story, crafting these characters, crafting this world, day in, day out. This man gave years of his life and even sacrificed his health. There was multiple points there where his health went down the drain because of this story, chasing the life of being a mangaka. But knowing all this, there are folk out there that looked at it and said, I can do it better. And that's where the problem lies. Also, by the way, cop the sweet weeb merch. Link in the description if you want to get yourself a weeb hoodie. That's pretty cool. Now, I want to make this very, very clear. I do not want any hate sent to this person at all. This video is about challenging the work of the person, not the person personally. I don't want to make a personal attack on this video at this person. It's not about that. It's about the work. Jujutsu NO Kaisen, a Twitter account that sprung up in the wake of the finale of Jujutsu Kaisen, proclaiming the following. Great news for fans of Jujutsu Kaisen manga. Since not everyone liked the original ending, we decided to draw a new ending starting from chapter 236. That contains an exciting and wonderful things, and we will focus on writing the characters perfectly and drawing with high quality. The name of the manga will be Jujutsu NO Kaisen. Followed by this meme. Now I have some notes. One, this post read as if it was an official thing. There was a lot of misinformation spread about this when it first appeared, because obviously the division that was caused by the ending of Jujutsu Kaisen, you know, it was a bit divisive. It was a bit divisive to say the least. That might be understated, but this appeared and it caused a lot of information to just be spread about as if this was an official ending. It was touted as if it was an official thing, and it definitely could have been made clear as if it wasn't. It was very misleading a little bit to those who weren't really paying attention to it. Two, we will focus on writing the characters perfectly and drawing them high quality. This has to be hands down the most disrespectful thing I think I've ever read when it's in reference to Akami that I think anyone could have ever said. First of all, the person who could draw and write these characters perfectly is Gege himself. There is no other person, man, woman, child, alien from fucking planet Zephyros, I don't even know if that's a planet, there is no other person better suited for the job of drawing these characters and writing them perfectly other than Gege Akami. This man has spent, as I mentioned, years of his life hunched over a desk, churning out chapters that routinely halted the manga side of the internet weekly. Secondly, they said that they draw these characters perfectly. Now this is the part that's the real kicker. Again, I said I want to challenge the work, not the person on this. But no matter how you slice it, being a mangaka, it can be boiled down to this simple term, a labor of love. It is quite literally a labor of love. For years, these mangakas slave away to perfect their craft, their stories, their art. But this person, they did not do that. They didn't do that. This tweet was published on October 12th, 2024, about a week and a bit after the final chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen had finally dropped. The first chapter released yesterday, meaning about 3 months, maybe a little bit longer, I don't know, it took for them to get this chapter out. Now, on the surface, the artwork for this chapter seems visually pleasing, very aesthetic. That is until you realize that this chapter was the result of tracing, AI, and pretty much just outright stealing others' work. This chapter has been heavily scrutinized pretty much since it dropped. So much so now that its release tweet now has community notes on it explaining the following. This is not official. The linked quote-unquote ending is fan-made and contains traced panels and possible AI-generated artwork. The concepts of this work are not made by the original creator, nor approved by him or his co-creators. Now, if you need proof that a lot of these panels were traced, I'm going to leave a link to a Twitter thread in the description. There is plenty more that you can find here. This panel is almost bar for bar a direct rip of One Punch Man. This panel is a direct rip of fan art. This panel is traced from the anime, this panel too. This one is traced from the original manga chapter that they are redrawing, except they just flipped it and reversed it, which is very interesting change right there. This panel is seemingly AI infused with tracing. The cover image that they used to promote this, Sukuna's arm is missing here, but there isn't an arm on the other side. His tattoos don't even match, and there is no blade on the Kamatoki, and this hand only has 3 fingers. AI is a thing. It's certainly a thing. Now, I could go on and on, but the point here is that whoever is behind this chapter, whoever is behind this Twitter account, they had the audacity to claim that these characters will be drawn better and written better than what Akami himself could have done. And again, as I want to preface this, I can't scream this loud enough. I don't want to shit on this person personally. I don't know them. They could be a really decent dude, but they have proceeded to trace, steal, and use AI to get their results for this chapter, all while not even putting a name to this chapter. There is no names credited to whoever wrote or drew this thing, not on the chapter. I can't find any on the Twitter account. There doesn't seem to be anyone who wants to put their actual name to this, and this is just the artwork side of things. The story, the dialogue, the character interactions that happen within this chapter are basically an entire reskin of the original chapter 236, but worse, like just way worse. The story comes off exactly how you'd expect it to. A poor written fan service chapter, and it seems to just forego the notion of any personalities and interactions that these characters already had pre-established in the past 35 chapters that this guy wants you to sort of follow on into. From how this new ending has been presented, it's as if they want you to read Katami's original work up to chapter 235 and then seamlessly transition into their work as if you've selected an optional ending in a video game. That's kind of the inference that I'm getting from this here, except it doesn't quite hit the mark. Gojo and Geto's initial meeting doesn't even feel like them at all. Instead, it just feels like a really poorly romanticized version of themselves. The dialogue between the two, it feels very clunky, filled with just shoehorned in lines that just on the surface are supposed to make sense, but they just don't. Let me do a little scene comparison here for you. In the fan ending, Geto tells Gojo to follow him. Gojo asks, where? And Geto responds, to a place free of cases. To this, Gojo responds with, do you think cases are hindering my life? Which, it doesn't even seem to make sense. This is almost as if it is an entirely different line of dialogue started by Gojo, as if he's responding to a question that was never even asked. Even what Geto says, to a place free of cases, this doesn't even imply what Gojo asks about. It quite frankly just doesn't make sense here. Now, in the original version of 236, Gege went out of his way to set up a question. Ultimate strength and the solitude it brings. I'm the one who will teach you about love. This is a thing that is like running throughout the series, and during the Gojo version of fight, it is explored further, deep dived to absolute powerhouses fighting each other and finding out that they're not actually so lonely. They've kind of got each other. That's their love. That's kind of how they're finding it. Gojo realizes by the end of the fight that while he was satisfied, Sukuna more than likely wasn't, as Gojo couldn't draw out his full strength, and he finds that kind of sad. He feels empathy for Sukuna, he feels saddened by that. And this realization leads both Gojo and Geto into a deep, introspective conversation about how Gojo sees himself, how others perceive him, and this very conversation ultimately sort of resolves that solitude plotline for Gojo, with a little bit more expansion on it later on down the line due to one Yuta Kotsu. But this fan chapter, it doesn't do any of this. We don't get to linger on any of these moments, and instead it just feels like we're trying to set up a return for Gojo as quickly as possible while simultaneously trying to get back into the action as quickly as possible. And therein lies the point here. You can sit here and say, well, it's just fan fiction. And you'd be right. And to fan fictions, I'm all ears, genuinely. Hell, if you've been around this channel long enough, I have literally built my entire channel off of pretty much crackpot theories and fan fictions, you could call them that. There is a difference in the execution of these theories, crackpot theories and fan fictions that I have presented, and they've garnered wildly different responses. While people have definitely called me an absolute psychopath for some of the shit that I've said, you see, when I post a video talking about why Uther is going to be the next Gojo and I provide evidence for my theory, I do so based on the story. I do so with love in my heart for the story and for the world. Never once would I present my theories or fanfictions as something that would be better than the original that the author Gege has done, because, well, pardon my French, that's just fucking stupid. I'm just not that guy. I'm not that way inclined to write a story that I would tout that would be better than someone who is obviously a professional at this and is objectively fucking good. Whether you like the story or not, he's objectively good at what he does. The sales prove it. Especially when you present that fanfiction that you've touted as if it will be better than the original, only to miss key elements from these characters, forming them sort of into parodies of themselves and creating characters and creating a chapter that just simply doesn't make sense. For example, here, Geto tells Gojo to just follow him after this brief conversation, and there are people for him behind this door, where we see Yaga, Haibara, Nanami, Yuki, and Ichichi, which simply just doesn't make sense. Again, let's compare this to the original of 236. In Geto 236, by the time Geto and Gojo have had their moment to talk, and they've had their deep introspective conversation, we're greeted by people Gojo holds dear who have passed on and have had a massive impact on Gojo's life. Nanami, Haibara, Yaga, Riko, hell, even Toji appears. Riko's maid is there in the background, but in this fanfiction, we see Yaga, Haibara, Nanami, Yuki, and Ichichi. Two of these people are not like the rest. In the entirety of Jujutsu Kaisen, Yuki doesn't once speak with Gojo. Let me just repeat that. She doesn't once speak with Gojo. They don't ever interact. They mention each other, sure, maybe, but they don't speak to each other in any sort of meaningful way. Gojo would not imagine her in the afterlife because she had no impact on Gojo's life in the same way that these other characters do. And also, Ichichi isn't even dead. It doesn't make sense. If this guy is touting this chapter as a new ending that is supposed to follow on, he's keeping all the same events prior to 236, but from 236, that's where he makes the changes, then Ichichi should still be alive. Why is he here in the afterlife? It doesn't fucking make sense. This whole chapter reads and looks as if it is told from the perspective of a person who's never really read the original more than once, or even properly at all from that matter, case in point with the Ichichi stuff. But they've sort of walked away not understanding core themes and plot points within the story, but also severely misunderstanding what it means to be a storyteller and an artist. And then they've walked away and said, I can do it better. This fanfiction, it could have been something fun for the community, genuinely, truly. I went into this chapter with an open mind and low expectations because I'm not really a big fanfic dude. It's not something that I partake in a lot, but I'm always open to see what people's creativity can bring out. I love that kind of shit. Because really, does someone on Twitter who claims to be better than that of the job of the professional who they're talking about actually turn out to be better than said professional? And this is just one of those cases. Had this story been presented in a different way, with more respect paid to Gege, less stealing, less tracing of artwork, and zero AI use, it probably could have had a chance. People probably would have liked it. Hell, there are artists on the platform who he could have worked with who have replicated Gege's style, and I know damn well he probably would have jumped at the opportunity to do this. As a creator myself, I kind of understand the size and the scope of this task that he's trying to do here, because creating a story like this, it's no small feat. It's the execution that was all wrong. And ultimately, the quote-unquote new ending of this, it just ends up feeling as if it's a soulless attempt to replicate the formula of a man who spent years of his life perfecting a craft in pursuit of trying to shoehorn one chapter out in 3 months. I kind of have issues with it. So, kids, the moral of the story is, if you're reading a story and you don't like it, and you have no experience writing, reading, or drawing a story, you cannot do it better. Or maybe you can't. Fuck it, I don't fucking know, bro. I'm just an old man ranting on the fucking internet. Who fucking knows what I'm saying, you know? Anyways, I wanted to get on here. This chapter's kind of been living in my head rent-free. I keep going back and just looking at it, and every time I look at it, I just notice more and more stuff. But anyways, a small little yap and rant session, so I hope you enjoyed. Again, I do not want anyone from my community to go and send hate to this dude. Go and read the chapter. Do not send hate to this dude, okay? I don't want him being personally attacked, okay? But anyway, I just wanted to do a brutally honest chapter review because I cover all sorts of things of JJK on here. But anyways, that's everything from me. I'm gonna head out. As always, I will catch you guys all in the next one. Much fucking love. Big fucking kisses. Peace.